Yo, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again tonight with another video. Today, I'm going to be making my NBA playoff picks. The playoffs are finally here. As you're seeing this video, it's the last day of the play-in tournament. As you can probably see by the fact that the Pelicans, Clippers, and Hawks, Cavs games are not yet decided on this bracket, but to be honest, that's not really going to change my picks. So I thought now would be a good time to go through every single series, even ones that we're not even sure are going to happen, talk about what I think about them, just go through, make my predictions, eventually crown an NBA champion. It's going to be fun. This is going to be a really good playoffs. I think there's a lot of great series, whether it's in the first round confirmed or potential series going forward. I think there's a lot to be excited about if you are an NBA fan. And as someone that doesn't have a team in the NBA playoffs, I'm just looking forward to some awesome basketball, which is exactly what I think we're going to get. So before you start this video, go ahead and comment down below who your NBA champion is or you think will be. I'm super excited to see who y'all pick. And let's go ahead and get into it. Leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on playoff content. Starting off, let's go with the Western Conference first. The Phoenix Suns facing off against the winner of the Pelicans-Clippers game. I don't think it matters. I think the Suns are going to sweep whoever they end up facing. The Pelicans are fun. They're young. I think with Zion, maybe this is a little more of a series. But overall, I just don't think they have the firepower. Same thing with the Clippers, missing Kawhi Leonard. They've got a lot of really good pieces. And if Kawhi comes back healthy next season, I think the Clippers are going to be one of the top teams in the West. It's just not realistic that they're going to keep up with the Suns. This Suns team is a well-oiled machine. They've been the best team in the league all season. I think they get it done in a pretty easy sweep. Moving on from that one, the Dallas Mavericks facing off against the Utah Jazz. This is really interesting because, to be honest, if Luka was playing from like minute one, there was no calf injury, I'd probably pick Mavs in 5. This is one that I think the Mavs they're a terrible matchup for the Utah Jazz, in my opinion. They're a great perimeter team, which the Jazz struggle with perimeter defense. They don't really rely a lot on attacking inside. Additionally, they have really solid perimeter defense, which the Jazz rely on a lot. So I just think it's a terrible matchup for the Jazz. I just don't think they would have stood much of a chance. They're also teams moving in opposite directions. The Jazz are trending down, while the Mavs trended up a lot in the second half of the season. But Luka's calf injury completely changes things. I can now see the Jazz maybe winning this series. But to be honest, I think Luka is going to come back in this one and play from pretty early on. I think he's going to miss game 1. It's already confirmed that he's doubtful. I don't think he plays, but I do think he'll be back for game 2, if not, maybe game 3. So he's going to come back eventually, and I think the Mavs do have the talent and the firepower. Being a team that is very variable with threes, there is a real chance that even without Luka Doncic, they steal a game or two just by hitting a ton of threes like they can. Spencer Dinwiddie, while he's not Luka Doncic, of course, does shore up a little bit of that hole that Luka leaves. So I'm still going to pick the Mavs. I think they get it done in 6 games. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jazz win this one if Luka misses a lot of time, but overall, I think he does come back, setting up Phoenix Dallas in the second round. Heading to Golden State Warriors versus the Denver Nuggets. This is a super interesting one as well because Steph Curry is going to be back for game 1, but he's supposed to be on a minutes limit, and we'll see. Like if it's like a 5-point game, say they're down like 5 with a few minutes left to go, does Steph play past that minute limit? Like, how strict is it? How healthy will Steph even be? He hasn't played in a few weeks, coming off of an ankle injury. I think that kind of makes me a little shaky on this, also with the fact that Nikola Jokic, in my opinion, is the most valuable player, and he's just really a terrible matchup for the Golden State Warriors. They don't have a big man to really stop him. I still think the Warriors get it done, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the Nuggets pull this one out. I'm going to pick Golden State in 7. I think Curry is going to be a little slow getting back into things. Curry, Draymond, and Clay, well, they've played together a ton, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. They haven't played a lot together this season, so it might just kind of be a little bit of an adjustment period. In addition, just having Nikola Jokic, I think, makes them tough. If Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. were in this series, I would pick the Denver Nuggets to win this one, but I am going to go with the Golden State Warriors. There's a realistic chance that if Curry is healthy earlier, they could get this done pretty quickly, but I'm going to I don't think Curry's fully there yet. Moving on from that one, we have Memphis, Minnesota, which I think is going to be a really good series. I think that the Timberwolves are kind of a bad matchup for the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies kind of struggle with more like athletic and mobile, like big men, like Cat is. I don't think Cat's going to struggle like he did in the Clippers game. I think he's going to bounce back in a big way. You've got high flyers in Anthony Edwards. John Morant, of course, on the other side, emerging as a superstar. You've got Jaren Jackson Jr., who's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. There's a lot of fun young talent on both sides. But overall, I think the Timberwolves are a tough matchup for the Grizzlies. I'm still going to pick the Grizzlies Grizzlies, though, they've just been too good as a team. I think the Timberwolves are going to be really fun now and for years to come, and maybe in a couple years, they'll finally pop off and kind of have this Grizzlies-type rise. But for right now, it's the Grizzlies' time. I'm going to pick them in 6 games, but I do think it is, if it'll let me pick it. There we go. I do think it's going to be hard fought, though. I think it's going to be tough to get out of there in 6 games. I think the Timberwolves kind of give them some problems. I wouldn't be surprised if Dillon Brooks and Patrick Beverley try to fight at some point. It's going to be a fun one. So we're going to move over to the East now to talk about their first round. In the first round, like I mentioned, I don't think it really matters who comes out of the play-in. I think the Miami Heat beat either the Hawks or Cavaliers. I do want to say, I don't think it's as easy as it is going to be in the Western Conference. The Atlanta Hawks having Trae Young, he just is such a great player that I think he himself can win his team a game, maybe even 2. And the Cavaliers, if they get Jarrett Allen back, I think they could make it a little bit interesting. So I'm going to pick the Heat in 5, depending on whoever that comes out of that round. When I say interesting, I mean like it's a bunch of close games and not necessarily blowouts. But I do think the Heat are just too good right now. They definitely aren't as good as the Phoenix Suns. I think this will be a tough 5 games where I think the Suns will blow out whoever they play in 4 straight games. So give me the Miami Heat in a 5-game series, but overall, it might be a tough one depending on who they face. Philly versus Toronto is one of the most interesting series. There are a lot of people saying that Toronto is their favorite in this series, like straight up, because I made that video talking about this series and I said, could the Raptors upset the Sixers? And so many of y'all commented, it should be that, couldn't the Sixers upset the Raptors? And I don't really think that's the case. I still think Philly is definitely the favorite. In the NBA, when you have the best player in the series, a lot of times you are going to be the favorite. Philly has Joel Embiid, and I'm not going to bet against Joel Embiid to lose in the first round. I think Philly's going to be all right in this one. It's going to be really tough. I think it's going to go 6 or 7 games, like I mentioned in that video. If you want to see me talk a lot about this series in depth, go check out that video. It was pretty good, in my opinion. But overall, I think the Sixers just, with Joel Embiid, with James Harden, Tyrese Maxey's been great this season too. I think they just have too much talent outside of the Raptors. The Raptors have a lot of great talent, but they also rely a little more on young guys. They're more variable. I trust the Sixers a little bit more than I do the Toronto Raptors. I am going to pick the Sixers in 7. I could see the Raptors winning this, though. I definitely could, but I'm not going to bet against Joel Embiid in the first round. Out East, we've got the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Chicago Bulls. I don't have to talk much about this one. This one's going to be Milwaukee in 5, maybe even a sweep. The Bulls are just super beat up at this point. They haven't been able to beat good teams all season. I think that with the way DeMar DeRozan has been playing this season, with Zach LaVine's talent level, I do think they could take a game maybe, but they really just don't have anyone to stop Giannis Antetokounmpo. Drew Holiday is going to give them a lot of issues. Chris Middleton, they don't have anyone to stop him. I think they're just kind of a year away. They had that really fun run at the beginning of the season where they were the 1 seed for a while, but injuries and kind of just regressing to the mean a little bit, I would say, brought them back down to earth. And now I don't think they stand a chance against the reigning champs in the Bucks. Finally, the last first round series is the Boston Celtics versus the Brooklyn Nets. This is a tough one. This is one that, once again, I think could go either way, like Philly versus Toronto. Because, you know, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving on one side, you've got Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. My thing, though, is that the Boston Celtics have been the hottest team in the NBA by far in the second half of the season. Other than maybe the Suns, they are also up there. But the Celtics have been on absolute fire. They're firing on all cylinders. The Nets haven't had this core together for very long. I feel like Boston's battle tested. They've been through hell in that first half of the season. They were terrible for the first half of the year. They completely turned it around to become one of the best teams in the league. They're great defensively. They're really going to miss Robert Williams in this series, but there's rumors that he could come back. And even with Ben Simmons' return looming in reportedly games 4 through 6, at some point, he's going to try to be back. I don't think it's going to matter that much. I think by the time that he comes back, it might be too little too late. And even then, it's going to be his first basketball in about a year. So I just don't see him having that much of an impact on the series. So I'm going to go with the Boston Celtics. I am going to say it goes, I'll say 7 games. I'll be conservative. I do think Brooklyn is talented. And when you have KD and Kyrie Irving, 2 of the 3 best players in the series, it's going to be a tough one. But I do think Boston gets out of it. I think they're just too good. So, moving on from that one, we now have Phoenix versus Dallas, Golden State versus Memphis, Miami versus Philly, and Milwaukee versus Boston in our second round. Going back over to the West, Phoenix versus Dallas, I am going to pick the Phoenix Suns to win this series in I'm going to say 6 games. I think the Mavericks could give them a few problems. Luka Doncic is just a really tough player to face off against. If they have a game where they just completely hit all their threes, there's really not much you can do against them. They've really been on fire in the second half of this season. They've really impressed me with the way that they've played. Once again, this is very dependent on Luka Doncic's health. If Luka's hurt, if he doesn't come back fully healthy, which he honestly probably might not, then it might be a sweep. It could be 5 games, but I am going to bank on the fact that Luka, even if he's not fully healthy, gets kind of back to a rhythm. And by the time this series rolls around, assuming they do get out of that one, I think Luka is going to be decently back to health. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how long calf strains take to heal fully, but I'm going to go with Phoenix. I don't think they'll lose in the second round, setting them up in the Western Conference Finals against the winner of Golden State versus Memphis. And I'm going to go with the Golden State Warriors. I like Memphis a lot. I'm going to go Golden State in 7. Memphis has been really good this year. I think I just trust the experience a little bit more. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, they've all been there and done this before. They're really deep. They've got Steve Kerr, who's won a few championships as a coach. Whether or not you think he's a great coach or not, that's up for debate, but he has done this playoff thing before. I think by this point, Steph will be pretty much healthy. So barring any more injuries, they're still a really deep team. Jordan Poole is huge in this series. And I think Memphis's inexperience, I think, would really show against a super battle-tested team and mainly a core of Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. I just don't think Memphis is going to be able to bring it out. I do think they're deep enough and talented enough to push this to 7 games, but I'm going to go with the Golden State Warriors, setting up Phoenix versus Golden State in the Western Conference Finals. In the East, Miami versus Philly. This is a tough one. It would be a really fun series. Of course, Jimmy Butler going up against Philly for the first time in the playoffs since he left. I think that would be super fun, as well as just some of the other narratives that kind of go on between these two teams. Two teams that I feel like a lot of people don't believe in. So I feel like NBA Twitter would be super toxic for this series against both sides of the ball. I'm going to go with Philly. I'm going to go with Philly in 7 games. Yeah, I'm going to go Philly in 7. I don't necessarily trust Jimmy Butler as their one option. I think really that's kind of what it comes down to for me. They've got the best player in the series, Philly, in Joel Embiid. I just don't know if they can really put together the offense to match what Philly might be able to do. I don't know how they'll deal with James Harden and Joel Embiid. I think Embiid can kind of take advantage of some mismatches in this one. Bam Adebayo is great, but Embiid, I think, is just talented enough to get them through this. Miami is great, and I do think they have been phenomenal all season. I think I just like the Sixers' talent a little bit better. Something that could come into factor in this is the fact that I picked Miami to win in 5 and Philly to win in 7. So I do think Philly could come into this pretty tired, which leads Miami to win. But I'm going to go with Philly. I'm not going to bet against Joel Embiid in that matchup. Finally, our last semifinal matchup is the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Boston Celtics. And this is one I've kind of gone back and forth on a little bit. I think this is anyone's series. But I don't think I'm going to pick against the reigning champs. I'm going to go Milwaukee in 6. I think it's going to be really tough to stop Giannis. Robert Williams will presumably be back for this series, but he still might not be at full health. I just don't want to bet against the champs in this series. Boston's been great, and I think they're going to be great for years to come. But right now, I still think it is Milwaukee's conference to kind of lose at this point, and I don't see them bowing out in the second round. The Celtics could definitely make this a series and even win it with the way that they've been playing, especially defensively if Robert Williams does come back. But I'm not going to bet against the Bucks in this one. I'm going to go Bucks in 6. We get to the conference finals. Phoenix versus Golden State, Philly versus Milwaukee. Out west, for the Western Conference Finals, I kind of foreshadowed it earlier. I don't think anyone in the West really matches Phoenix. I'm going to go Phoenix in 6. I don't feel like they're going to be that... I don't think anyone pushes them to 7. I think Phoenix is going to have a pretty, not easy time because they've got 2 6-game series here, but I think Phoenix is going to do really well. Part of me, I'm going to change this to 5. I'm going to change the Dallas series to 5. But I think Phoenix kind of is just by far the best team. They've been healthy, or even now they've gotten healthy after Chris Paul's injury. They've got a great coach in Monty Williams. They're one of the deepest teams in the league. Potential defensive player of the year in Mikal Bridges. Devin Booker, who I really haven't even mentioned in this video, has been so good. He was an MVP candidate. The Suns are firing on all cylinders. I don't think Golden State can beat them. I just think they're kind of beat up. They rely a little too much on some younger guys who might not have quite the performances that they did in the playoffs. They've had some issues with rotations here and there. I just think Phoenix is the best team in the West. I'm going to pick them to come out of it. And back east, Philly versus Milwaukee. To me, something that I think comes up huge in this series is that in this bracket here, Philly has not played one, but two 7-game series against really physical, great defensive teams in Toronto and Miami. Milwaukee played a pretty beat up Bulls team in the first round, and for me, they went through 6 games in the second round. I'm going to pick the Bucks to make it out against the Sixers in 6 games. I think the Bucks, once again, like the Suns, don't have to go through any 7-game series to make it out of here. I think they're just too talented. I'm not going to bet against them, and Philly's going to be pretty tired. They don't really have a great answer for Giannis Antetokounmpo, so overall, I just think that Milwaukee is the better team. And so, we get an NBA Finals rematch, which is funny because so many people said that this was a fluke matchup, whatever, but I really do think that these are the best 2 teams in the NBA right now, construction-wise, looking at the 2 conferences. My one difference with this series is I think it switches. I think the Phoenix Suns win the NBA championship. I'm going to pick them in 6 games. I think the Phoenix Suns come out of this on top. It's now going to try and make me sign up. You saw the pick. It was Phoenix in 6. I just think that Phoenix gets it done. I think Phoenix is really, really talented. They're the best team in the league. They've been on fire, as I've said a million times. I think they're a little bit different this year. I think they're more poised. They've been through it. They know what they need to do differently in the NBA championship to win it all this time. They're a better team than they were last year, and I think in a rematch, they get the better of the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis is still the best player in the series, but I think they're more well-equipped. They're more experienced in this type of scenario. I think they get it done. It's really hard to repeat in the NBA, and ultimately I think the Phoenix Suns win it all. I think Chris Paul and Devin Booker get their first rings. DeAndre Ayton, Monty Williams, they end up on top. And so the Phoenix Suns are my 2022 NBA champions. Let me know who your pick is in the comment section below and what you thought of this bracket. I appreciate y'all watching. I will see you all later. Real one, say it back.